Hey everybody, it's Jenny. I wanted to take a moment and speak to everybody about the movie that premiered on Lifetime tonight about the Watts case and give my input, see what everyone else thought about it, um, and pick up some things that I felt were inappropriate, discrepancies, and just distasteful items that didn't fit the case. Um, I'm assuming that you know about the Chris Watts case, about what happened and all of that, so I'm not going to go into the details of the who, what, when, where, why. He was charged with murdering his pregnant wife and two children. He admitted to it in a prison interview, and then he has another confession since that first confession to an author who wrote a book about it called Letters from Christopher. If you haven't read it, I would recommend that you do. It will give you more insight into the case and make you feel a way that I don't know how to describe because it's a heavy book. A lot of it's repetitive from what we already know, but in the very last chapter, there was a lot of details on his letters and things like that. And I do plan on going over that at a later time. But since the movie just premiered tonight, I really want to talk about it and my opinions of it. The first problem I had with the movie was it felt like they did a lot of, I don't know, attention seeking towards Thrive, which they called Strive in the movie. And it was almost like they were trying to paint that as why he was, whatever, maybe blaming it for what happened. First of all, that's BS. From what I've read, saw, and heard, he was using it correctly. He was using a Duo patch, just like a 2 patch thing, taking the supplements, his vitamins. I myself have tried Thrive once years and years ago. It didn't really work for me because I'm just a lazy person. But I just felt like they were kind of embellishing that a little bit too much, putting too much focus on that. And I feel like the way they kept pretending like she was always on her phone or, whatever, I feel like that was distasteful or throwing off on her because, yes, she was on her phone a lot. Yes, she was, constantly making videos, but she was also making a lot of money for their household. She had the car allowance for the Lexus. She was doing very well for herself. So she may not have been out of the job Monday through Friday, but she was still working. So if she had to network and make videos or whatever to make this money, then that's what it is. I feel like that it shouldn't like she was always on her phone. Yes, she was, but that was her job, was to be on her phone. So I don't like that they portrayed her that way. Another thing I didn't like was the way they portrayed her as being overly controlling. Um, Everybody said she was a little bossy. She was very organized. She was OCD, whatever. I envy her home. I wish that I could be that organized. But to pretend like when the food ordering scene when she like ordered for him, I just felt like that was a little bit ridiculous because we have his word, and how good is that? And it's just a little bit too much, if you ask me, to pretend like she was ordered his food for him and all. And if she was that controlling and that overbearing, he stayed married to her for 8 years. It wasn't until he got a mistress that he had a problem with it. So I kind of feel like the mistress is the reason. There isn't, like, why would you worry about her controlling this at that point? And I just feel like it was distasteful. It painted a bad portrait of her, and I was not okay with it. The next thing I really didn't like was how the friend, which I'm assuming they were portraying as the friend who found her friend Nicole. I didn't like how they had her come in and she was like, "Oh, he's not going with you on the trip." And then when she was in North Carolina, her mom made some like, sideways comments about him. Early in the trip, no one, her friends, her family, no one knew there were any issues with him. There had never been issues with him between him and her. So there would be no reason for anyone to make any snide comments or anything like that. So I feel like that was just trying to portray him like nobody liked him. When contrary to that, everyone loved him. No one could believe he did it. So that just did not fit well with the actual case. Um, Another thing I did not like was that they had the call from Shannon to Chris about not wanting the girls to stay at his family's house while in North Carolina. Um, they didn't give any backstory to that. They just made her look like a villain. She had a very good reason for that. Her daughter Cece had a tree nut allergy and did not do well. She couldn't. It was like life threatening. So there was an incident they called it Nutgate, where Cindy Watts, Christopher's mother, was allowing other kids to eat ice cream, and it had nuts in it. And Cece wanted some, and Shanann was like, she can't have that. And then his mother made a comment about, well, she's got to learn she can't have everything she wants. As a mother, you are your child's advocate. You are responsible for your child. Their life is in your hands. And I felt she did the right thing and I felt he should have backed her on that. And I personally feel like his mother should have apologized for that and not made it into a bigger situation and played the victim herself, which is what narcissists do. Wonder where he got narcissistic traits from. Next, there were some weird discrepancies, kind of like they showed the video of her on the beach and she was making a phone call, or like the video and she's like, "Hey, from North Carolina, we're here at the beach." They were at Myrtle Beach, which is in South Carolina. Check your facts. I didn't like in his interview or his interrogation before the confessions and all, it was like it was not true to the transcript. He was saying things that he didn't say. He was trying to paint things like they were perfect. They talked about separating, the spark was gone, nobody was cheating, it was a mutual decision, blah, 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 blah. He wasn't saying anything about she was mad, she was angry. He wasn't saying that. So I feel like that, again, was done kind of in poor taste because that's not what was said. Also, let's see. In the confession, when they had the prison confession scene in the movie, he was saying that he saw her strangling Bella, Bella. But the actual thing he supposedly seen in the very first interview or confession was that she was on CC and he saw Bella was already gone on the bed through the monitor. So that was not accurate. Shanann was not in a white shirt. And I guess it's nitpicky to pick up things like shirt color, stuff like that. But this case is so new. It is so fresh. It is heartbreaking. It's worse than any horror movie you've ever seen in your life. I mean, it's not something that is imaginable. For me, it's definitely personal because he was from here. He was born where I was born. He graduated the same year as my husband. Like, I have friends that know him. So to me, it's very personal. And I feel like, get the facts right or don't do it. Don't do the movie if you can't do it right. And that's my personal opinion. I really hate that they had to, like, Shanann was a villain and she was controlling and overbearing, and Nikki, the mistress, was just this innocent person. This innocent person who Googled Shanann Watts in September 2017, although supposedly her relationship did not start with Chris Watts until, she Googled Chris Watts in September. I believe it was Shanann in January of the next year, 2018. But she didn't start seeing Chris until the spring, March, is when she started working there. They started seeing each other in June. Doesn't really make sense. You can't tell me she didn't know he was married because he didn't wear a ring, because he admits that she did know he was married. And in all of those searches, because there were several, you can read them in the discovery if you aren't aware of those. She did search for Shanann Watts several times, and Shanann's Facebook was public. Everything was public. She was an open book. So she would have known he was not in a separation. She would have known that he had a baby on the way. So she can deny. But that's BS. This is the year, like, we all have internet. We all search. If I meet somebody, I'm going to Google you. Like, that's just life. And furthermore, from that, during this time when Shanann was in North Carolina, if you've only been in a relationship with him for a few weeks, but yet you're Googling wedding dresses for 2 hours, you're Googling things such as a married man's, or having an affair with a man who says he'll leave his wife, marrying your mistress. These are all things that she Googled. These are all in the discovery. So I have a very hard time with them painting her as like this innocent victim. She even Googled Amber Frey. Do people hate Amber Frey and Amber Frey's net worth and book deal? If you don't know who Amber Frey is, she was Scott Peterson's mistress, who had no idea he was married, who was completely like sideswiped, did not know. There's a major difference there. She didn't know. Nicole Kessinger knew. So it doesn't matter how she tries to paint herself, how Lifetime tries to paint her, she knew he was married. She hid evidence from the police. She deleted her phone. She deleted everything she could. She lied to the police on several occasions. If you don't believe me, listen to her 5 interviews. You will find all of her contradicting statements. So there's more to this case than what we know. And I'm not happy with this movie because I personally feel like it was done in poor taste. I feel like it was too soon. I feel like they did stupid details. Like, one of the biggest things when Shanann's friend came on that day was her shoes are by the door. Her suitcase is still there. She's not unpacked. And it was all visible. And in the videos, you can see that her flip-flops were by the door. They had her wearing the flip-flops up the stairs in the movie, all that. That was not accurate. Maybe it's a small thing. Maybe it's silly. But to me, it's just, if you're going to do it right. I just felt like it was falsified information for drama. I felt like it was not okayed by her family. Her family denounced the movie. I felt like, um, honestly, it was a horrible Lifetime movie, as most of them are. And I feel like I wasted 2 hours of my life watching it. Um, I feel like you could go on YouTube right now and you could look at these videos and you could see the actual footage and what really happened and understand it better than this sad attempt at painting Shannon Watts as a villain when she was actually the victim. Um, if you guys have any input, if anybody has anything they want to say or want to talk about it, do another video discussion about it, let me know. Um, I just want to extend my thoughts and prayers to the not the Watts. Well, yeah, the Watts, because they did lose their grandchildren. But the Ruzek family, because I understand completely now why they did not like this movie and why they denounced it. But let's all just remember Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico. They are the true victims in this. Let's all hope that in the future we can all look for red flags. Even though there really weren't any for with him, but maybe this case will bring to light something that we never noticed or saw before about someone. And if nothing else, it'll teach us that you never truly know someone and that you just need to be aware of who is around you, because sometimes the ones the closest to us are the ones that will hurt us the most. I guess that's about it. If you want to watch the movie, have at it. But personally, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not worth it. A good documentary would do you over. But thanks for listening. Feel free to share this video and give me your thoughts. Have a good night.